Hello, welcome back. All right, our skill of the day, we are turning the corner to the end of the stress tolerance module. So today we have the improve skill, which will be our focus. So for those of you who are following along in the workbook, for all those that are curious, we do have a link to the handouts in our show notes, and you can find it on our website as well. But we're going to be on Distress Tolerance Handout 9, which is page 336 for reference. Remembering that the framing of distress tolerance is all about getting through moments without making things worse. And the set of skills that we talked about last time, we had distraction techniques. We also talked about self-soothing. Similarly to those skills, the skills that we're going to move through today, we want to balance using these skills with also staying in the moment. So when we talk about mindfulness, again, that foundation for all these other skills, we don't want to lose sight of that. So just note that somewhere, make like a mental note that whatever we talk about today, can we use this with balance of being present with what is happening? And we'll grow, again, like that muscle strength over time of being able to turn our mind from the present moment to like distraction, and then also being able to discern what's needed, like what's going to help us most in the moment. So a common question I get from people with these skills is, how do I know if these are working? And the marker here is if time has passed and you have not made things worse, you're doing it. So remembering it's not all about feeling better or like having this magical shift. But if things have not imploded or gotten significantly different, then we're good. We're staying in the right lane. Okay, so the acronym IMPROVE stands for improving the moment. And where we start with is the I. It stands for using imagery. So I'm just going to use some simple examples that I typically teach the skill with. But this is such a broad category that there's so many ways that this could look. So if I name something, then you do something totally different, use that. If this like spurs some ideas, maybe you haven't thought about that before, feel free to try those on too. But just know this is a really big category. So this is just some examples that could fit here. But basically the way I like to think about it is like we're going to just temporarily leave the current situation by going into our imagination or going into using imagery to give us a little break. So typical ones that I see people use are really common ones. Like you could close your eyes if you like and imagine like a calming scene in your mind. I really like to pair imagery with self-soothing. So when you do this, and I just said that, like closing your eyes, imagining, calming scene, really see if you can go there. Like, what would it smell like to be on that beach in Spain right now? What would you be hearing? What would it feel like on your skin? What smells are in the air? Like those questions of trying to elicit your senses can really make the imagery much more robust and give us more to kind of work with that serves that same distraction component, like kind of pulling us out. If anyone's ever created a fantasy world in their mind, this would be the time to use that and call it a skill. I'm going to this fantasy world. For all my readers out there, there's, a book or a story or a plot that you can like really see vividly. Go hang out there for a while. And it's your skill. It's your skillfulness in the moment.
Use it and call it a skill. Will do. Challenge accepted.
The one I really like too is imagining things happening, like changes occurring or things going well, or things like working out. Sometimes when I think about being in a heightened stress state, or if you're feeling like really overwhelmed, sometimes we can go into imagery and then be reminded of some of the problems, and we can start spinning, right? We can get stuck on the content, like what's happening, or, oh, this thing's not working. So really try and imagine how would this play out in my favor? What would I like this to look like? It's flexing that imagery muscle. And also by proxy, you can also create a different emotion there. So sometimes a common question I get here was like, well, how long should I be using imagery? Because for my creatives out there and people who use this often, you might be familiar with the feeling that you can stay here for a really long time. So there's not a set time. And again, we want to try to limit this in some way and bring it into balance with staying in the present moment. So whether that's maybe setting a timer for like 5 minutes, maybe you need like an hour, 20 minutes, kind of tuning in with yourself, and then what is it that you need? So ask yourself that question. All right, that's imagery. Next, the M stands for making meaning. So if you've ever heard the phrase, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, or a Meredith's edit, when life gives you lemons, make a martini with a twist.
Yes, even
Whatever,
better.
however you like to use your lemons for whatever works for you, you can plug that in here. Okay, so meaning and making meaning. What we're trying to do here is change like our appraisal of the situation through the use of meaning. And when I think about examples of how people use this, it can be really powerful and helpful for, again, buying us time, getting through the moment without making things worse. And then there's other times, or people may have been on, you may have experienced this, of being on the receiving end of someone offering you meaning where it doesn't quite fit, right? Or like, oh, like you're going through something really hard, and like they're like, you're gonna come out of this so strong, or like think about all the learning you're doing. It's like that is actually not the time for the meaning. Sometimes it can feel invalidating, like when that meaning is pushed on us. So I say that to say, if you turn towards this skill as a distress tolerance skill, and you find yourself kind of maybe landing on words that maybe aren't yours, or you've heard other people say, but it's just not it's just not landing quite right, don't push it. Maybe try one of the other categories. And at other times, that meaning can really be helpful. So it's important just to hold that and say that here. So some examples, I've heard people focus on like positive aspects of what's happening, kind of reminding themselves that they're competent, that they've gotten through this. I've heard people use like repeat like proverbs or use mantras that kind of give them a bigger sense of meaning, connecting with something bigger. And that can be awesome use of this skill here. So similar framing and backdrop. The P stands for using prayer as a technique. And similarly, if this lands as like, ooh, I don't know if that's like that works for me, or maybe that's been used in a way that's not felt validating in the past, don't push it. And if prayer is in your practice, this would be a great place to use it. And now we're putting it into the skill category. The main kind of emphasis here in the text talks about any like mantra or internal dialogue that's opening yourself up to the moment. Kind of like a complete opening yourself of like, this is just the moment. I'm here. Again, like I'm capable. I can move through this. Kind of like that, like opening or surrendering versus like praying for something to be different. Again, sometimes that can like set off the little spirals and tune us back into what's not working. So like anything around acceptance or surrender is in this category.
Yeah, there's this Peloton instructor I love. It's Christine Derkele, and she uses this mantra of I am, I can, I will, I do, like in the toughest moments. It's
Nice.
so good. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, you're reminding me of that.
Yeah. And it's interesting when I think about this. I think both of these, of meaning and prayer, sometimes when I pitch this to people, they're like, it doesn't really, like, I don't really do that, or that's not in my wheelhouse. And then when we're talking through examples of times that they got through things that were really hard, they actually will recall kind of pulling on something, like, or a friend told them something that like was really helpful and just like sustained them through that. Or they remembered, like, a mentor giving them this little bit of wisdom that felt really meaningful and helped them like just kind of ride through things. So on paper, we might not for at first kind of recognize that we do this, and just tuning into it, you might already be having this in your practice already.
Yeah. And I feel like mantra, if people don't like that word for some reason, I feel like sometimes the word anchor for me is really helpful too. Like, what's my
Mm-hmm.
mental like anchor for this moment? You
Nice.
know, sometimes it's like my values, or other times it's yeah, like the meaning of making of that
Yeah.
moment. Mm.
All right. So we've been in this category already, but we're gonna talk about it again. And in this section, you might notice that in some of the skills there are some overlaps. And to me, the emphasis of that is we want to remind people of these skills. So whether you call it relaxing actions, or you call it self-soothing, or you're practicing that progressive muscle relaxation from like the tip skills, there's lots of inroads to trying to kind of embrace the same principle. So in this moment, can I improve the moment by doing something that is relaxing? On paper, simple. And then when we're really stressed or we're really overwhelmed, we can feel so far removed from this. Or this feels like I can't tell you the number of people are like, how, what, when, what? No, like it's just not happening. I have so much stress. Like I can't unpack that. Or like, yeah, I can go, get a massage, but I'm going to be thinking the whole time. Or um, it's really calming for me to to be in this one place in my house, but then I'm so worried there. Or I can still think about my work, or I can't turn it off. So I like to encourage people to build a practice of trying to build more like soothing, more relaxing actions into like their daily practices as much as we can. So we can then more easily kind of pull on it when we need it. And sometimes it's just, I think it's helpful just to name that if you turn towards this and it feels challenging, that makes sense. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but it just makes sense. So maybe you get pulled out of it. Can you go back to it again? So if you're in the place of feeling overwhelmed or have a lot going on, my go-to relaxing action is using that paced breathing that we talked about in tip skills. So I was doing like the slowed breathing. Even in our greatest moments of stress, we usually can soften our breath, or try to get that exhale to just be a little bit longer. So speaking of anchors, your breath is always your anchor. So take some deep breaths, some long, slow exhales. What does that feel like in your body? And there's a bullet point on here, one of the last suggestions, where it says change your facial expressions. So we're going to talk about this one more. We're going to talk about this more in radical acceptance. But there is some truth that so much of what's happening, especially our stress, we store it everywhere in our body. So if anyone's ever been called out for looking a certain way when they're stressed, or having like that worry grin,
Like
or
this face.
mm-hmm, that's all tension and tightness. And again, sounds counterintuitive, or might not be the first thing that we can think of. And if we try it, you might notice a subtle shift if you try to relax this area of your face, try to like soften your jaw. A really common one is like your tongue can be like on the roof of your mouth. Like, can you relax your tongue? You like just make your jaw a little bit more loose. And actually, we can do this with our whole bodies, or our whole body. Trying to soften somewhere on our body, or just change our posture. And that can go a long way for impacting our mood. Seemingly small, but can have a big impact. So even right now, is there anything you could do that could change your facial expression or your body posture that would feel more relaxing? Or again, feel like more an open state?
Mm-hmm.
Really, I do think for a skill, it doesn't require a prop. Um, Again, that you can do at any moment. Just asking yourself, like, what is calming? What would be relaxing? And is there anything that's accessible right now? The other day, I was at work. I had a really busy day, and I was like moving from one thing to the next. But I had like a little like 5-minute window before I was on my next meeting. And I could like just feel that energy just being so busy all day. And I just kind of looked around me, and it was like there's this empty teacup sitting next to me. I'm like, oh, right, I have tea here. I really like to drink a tea. I usually will have some tea like in between sessions or in between meetings. And it is like a nice little soothing and also feels like calming. So I just took me 1 minute tops to go fill up my own teacup and then come back. So that's one example of something that was accessible. I could use it in the moment, took less than a minute. And then I had this thing with me to bring into my next like meeting space. So it doesn't have to be a big gesture. It can be really small here.
Yeah. And for all of our people who are staring at screens all day, one of my favorite
Oh,
things
yes.
is to just like turn and look in a direction where you can see for like 20 feet or more, especially for
Mm-hmm.
a distance. And just like to me, if I'm in back to backs, that's the best thing I can offer myself sometimes. And it's just letting my eyes like relax and like look out far for a minute, you know?
Yeah,
I
nice.
love that. It feels so good sometimes. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So again, just to clarify, I'm not saying that you're in this meeting and then you completely tune out because you're just watching the birds pass. So right, like I'm not saying go stay in fantasy land or in distraction forever. Again, we're going to balance this with being in the moment. So can I be like have my full attention in, also take in my scenery, come back, or in between those meetings, right? Or if I have a little bit of downtime, can I plug some of this in? Okay, another one that's we're revisiting. The O in the IMPROVE acronym stands for one thing in the moment. So if you remember back in mindfulness, we talked about doing things one mindfully. Um, there's purpose here. There's a reason why we're revisiting this and reminding people to do this again. The power of being in just this moment and recognizing that all I have to get through is just this moment, that alone can really help us tolerate distress. Like, I just need to get through this, or I'm going to be in this moment, and then the moment's going to shift, the moment's going to change. So, what would it be like to right now put all of my attention on this thing? Going back to being on screens and lots of screen meetings, we probably can notice when other people are distracted. Right? When we're doing other things, we're like, oh, no one's noticing, or this little pop-ups here, I can just check this email, but our eyes kind of wander. We do something else. And how does that feel when we're in the receiving end of that? Like when we're in a group meeting or a group space, and you can kind of feel that someone's attention's not there. So there's ripple effects onto like from like a team perspective or a group perspective, and they're noticeable. And it also impacts ourselves. So this is your opportunity to come back to this present moment with your full attention, full awareness. Yes, I have something else I want to say there, but now I forgot.
When my best friend was fighting brain cancer, that was a thing that we found was because there was so much existential, like true fear that we could like lose
Mm.
her. And she and I realized like, oh no, in this moment, everything's fine. Like you're here, I'm here. This precise moment is fine.
Ah,
All that fear, not fine. But this moment, we're here, we're together. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Wow, how powerful.
yeah. We still use it too.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That translates to so many different places. Like for people listening, think about where you could use that or plug that in for yourself. Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready for one of my favorites?
Always. I want to hear Meredith's favorites. I want to hear Meredith's favorites and Meredith's edits always.
um, my skill group members over the years are like, Meredith, you can't say every skill is your favorite. I was like, do I? No, I don't do that. No, this one's really my favorite. They're like, well, last week you said that was your favorite. Oh, sorry. Well, there's so many good ones out there. Here we are.
13 years later, if this one's still your favorite, let's have it.
So the IMPROVE acronym, the V stands for taking a brief vacation. And if we extend the description, it's taking a brief vacation from adulthood, is like what I like to call it. So this can be anything from a few moments in your day to maybe like a full day off. If you're going into like more than a few days off or more than a day off, we want to check in with ourselves, make sure we're balancing it with some present moment awareness, making sure we're not going into the avoidance camp, because this is something that could turn into that. Like, it's so lovely taking a vacation from adulthood. Like, what if I just stay here? Tempting. I get it. And things still need to get done. So I feel like people fall in like two camps here. There's some people who are like really good at like giving themselves breaks. They can like really let loose, kind of turn off that like adult brain or like that kind of like CEO brain of like all these things I have to get done, all these things I have in order and the big vision and all the stuff. And then there's other people who I feel like really, really struggle with this. Like, it's very hard to step into rest and just being. So I hereby give you permission to give yourself a little break. And let's talk about what that could look like. So, some examples. You could go to the beach or the woods for the day. You could take a blanket to the park and go sit on it for an afternoon. Take a 1 hour breather from hard work. Micro skills of this, you could just go take a little walk in between those meetings. Turn off your phone for the day. What would that look like?
It's juicy.
Put your out of office on, even just for a day or half day. Whatever you decide to do, part of the practice here, there's two things. One, really trying to tune into that break. So when you go into the beach, for example, really throwing yourself into that, trying to be there, try to be present. And then when you get pulled into doing mode, notice it, say, not right now. I'm going to do that later. When I go back into my adult self, I'm going to take care of that. Tomorrow, when I go back to my computer, I will check my emails. And I know we talked about this a little bit in mindfulness, but again, like, we're just constantly bombarded with things to do and emails coming in. I was dropping my kids off today at school, and by the time I got to school, an email had come in with someone asking me a question. I got pinged with a text message, and they came into my Slack, and I'm like trying to respond to them as I'm walking down the hill with my kids. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? This can wait for 10 minutes, and I can come back to that. So even like that can be an example of giving yourself a little bit of a break. But again, give you permission to do this. It can be really playful and air quotes frivolous, whatever it is that you need to do to just like have fun.
Yeah. I love
Play.
it too that it's called vacation as well, because I feel like there is this like should that just hovers over all of us because we're so interconnected now, like with all the technology and everything. And to just be like, oh, it's just like 10 minutes. I'm just going to finish like walking my kids to school or walking my dog, or I'm just going to finish enjoying my coffee and then I'll respond.
Yes.
What
Think
a
about
concept.
that.
What a
Enjoying your
concept.
coffee. What would it be
Weird.
like to sit and drink the coffee
Yeah.
instead of just picking it up and running and then waiting for it to be cold to then finally take a sip? Like, can we slow it down? This is all a part of it.
Or to take John Kabat-Zinn's challenge, like, can you just take a shower and just be in the shower? Like, I certainly
Yes,
was. I've been trying that ever since we talked about it. It is much harder than it seems.
100%. A lot of these concepts, as I tell people, like, on paper, analytically, we're like, oh yeah, got that, easy. I'm like, go do it, report back. Like, oh, so I was in the shower for like 10 seconds.
Turns out I was solving all the world's problems. You know? Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to think about common questions that come up here. Thinking about this on paper, when you read vacation, people are like, well, I would love to take a vacation, but I can't. Or it's not in the budget right now, or I don't have time to take 2 weeks off or a weekend off. So again, framing this can be really small moments to a day to a much longer extent. If you can take a vacation, go do that. When was the last time you took a vacation or used your PTO? Can you act on that? What's available? So I like that's kind of scaling. everything from like little tiny itty bitty vacations to the bigger one. And this all fits in this skillful category.
And you know what's interesting too is that this has been coming up this week and last week for a bunch of my CEOs. You get these moments as CEO when you're scaling your company where it feels like you're not sure what to do because you got the team to a point where they can like do stuff without you. And you get these like very brief windows of opportunity to just go be for a second, like walk away, tell the team you're available if they need you. And it's perplexingly difficult to do it as a CEO a lot of the times, but that's the thing. It's like seize the vacation when you get it because it's not going
Totally.
to last long. Go take care of you, go breathe, go do the thing that fills your cup. It might just be a day
Yeah.
or an afternoon and then you're back in it. But like my
Yeah.
therapist used to say, like lick the plate clean, you know, when these moments come, just like savor it, lick it clean, you know, and then
Totally.
onward.
And I think I think sometimes when we think about taking vacations or even like relaxing actions, like sometimes we equate that with rest, and rest is important. And I just want to name here too. This really could be anything. What what refuels you? Is it doing something that's like totally different? Maybe it's super active and energizing. That fits. That works. Because sometimes people are like, well, I don't like. I would like to rest, but like that's not like really what's needed right now. Or I have all this energy, like I'm like in doing mode, but can I take that energy just in a slightly different direction? So it just doesn't have to look one way. That's what I'm trying.
Yeah, I love that.
Um, and then last but not least, we have the E in improve stands for using self encouragement and rethinking the situation. So the impact of stress and overwhelm or any heightened states, any heightened emotions, we get that cognitive inflexibility. It's our ability to see the big picture, ability to think differently gets really limited. And one of the first things that go is self-encouragement. So you're under stress and you're like, should be working harder, I should be doing better, like, oh, you suck at this, or this is, you weren't made for this, or maybe you should just quit, or maybe this is just everyone told you that you this wouldn't work and look, it's not working, right? We get self-doubt can get really loud. So this is a reminder that we need to have a good baseline of encouragements, and we can pull on encouragements to help us tolerate and get through moments. So maybe you notice all that self-doubt looming, or you get that stress like, oh gosh, this just isn't going to work. What would it be like to offer yourself some encouragement instead? So this is going to be really personal. Everyone finds I have learned over the years that what people find encouraging differs wildly. So think about what you need to hear, what feels encouraging for you, what statement. Um, and if you're in a current moment where you're like, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. What would you imagine a friend saying to you? Or vice versa, what would you offer to a close friend, or what would you offer to someone that you love? And can you use those words? So try them on. I love, these are great ones, like write out post-it notes with some self-encouragement statements so you can just see it when you need it. Super helpful. These we can also use, kind of weave this into the meaning, or like kind of reminding us of those little mantras, encouraging mantras or encouraging statements to yourself. Like, you can do this. It won't last forever. I'm building mastery. I'm practicing. I'm getting better at something. I'm I can tolerate this, right? It's all going to work out. Don't know how, but it's going to get there. You got
This
this.
too shall pass.
Don't implode. Yeah, this will pass.
You got this, girl.
Are all different examples of this. Can you think of, or right now talking about this, can you think of any like encouragements like that you hear people say or get offered to themselves, or
Oh,
even for
yeah.
yourself? Like, do you know kind of what yours, if you feel willing to share?
hmm Well, I learned recently that talking out loud to yourself is actually a good thing. And sometimes even using your own name can help. So sometimes like I'll just be like, Faith, you got this. You have done harder things than this. Come on, you can do this. Like one
Nice.
step at a time. For me, it's
Yeah.
usually one thing at a time because I'll try to like solve all the things. And it's like, nope, just one thing at a time. You got this. Like we can do
Nice.
hard things. Um, if I see some of my people also being like, we've gotten through stuff like this before. I've done this before. Like I can do
Oh,
this again,
nice.
you
Yeah.
know,
Love
which is
that.
really, I love those moments because you're like, oh, that's right. This isn't my first tough rodeo, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking that in like in the couples world, um, they talk about couples that have higher ratios of positive comments is a predictor of partners staying in relationships together. So like ruling out everything else, if we just have like audio tapes of partners' interactions, and it can be really small and subtle. But again, when there's a higher ratio of those being positive or encouraging, that's linked to greater outcomes in the future. And whatever's true in like our relational world is also true just with ourselves. Or like your longest standing relationship is with yourself. So what's your ratio commentary right now with yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Positive to negative, or like kind of tough love versus encouraging love and support to yourself? I'm slowly but surely trying to weed out this myth that you have to be tough on yourself. You have to be really like you have to give yourself, or wait, you have to be like your biggest critic in order to be successful. I just don't believe that. And I have yet to see someone that shows me a model of that looks really healthy and has longevity to it. Sometimes being harsh and giving ourselves hard feedback helps us grow. And then there's like this tipping point where it just becomes erosive. Now I feel less confident in myself. Uh, I'm mistrusting my own self versus before I felt really more stable. So I love asking people to use that, do that little inventory. Like, where are you at just today? Where are you at in this last like maybe week or so? What's your ratio of comments looking like? The very last thing listed on here, we're still in the same category. It gives a prompt. I'm gonna read it out. I'm gonna read it out loud just for clarity, and then we can talk about what this looks like. It says list and then practice thoughts that are particularly important in your crisis situations. So let me translate that. If you have recurring prompting events, that situations that create this like high stress, what are like kind of the frequent flyer thoughts that show up that then add to the distress or make you feel more um, like reactive or unsettled? So what are those thoughts? Again, like, are there thoughts about your abilities or self-doubt or high criticisms, whatever they are? Can you write those out? And then can you come up with a different thought to kind of replace it with? So this is a cognitive strategy here of noticing your thoughts and then substituting them with something different. So it's not getting rid of your thoughts. I want to be clear on that. That is a fool's errand. Um, Rather, working with the thoughts when they're there. So, oh God, there's that thought, I'm an idiot again. There it is. Okay, well, everyone makes mistakes. I got a whole team that will help me figure this out. Or, okay, there it is. There's that thought again. I'm doing the best that I can. Or I'm working on learning something different, just for like one example. That you can rehearse these in advance. You can write these down. What I love about this practice is that when I ask people that, like, hey, what shows up in those really stressful moments? People, generally speaking, can whip out like 4 or 5 thoughts that are like, oh yeah, this is what shows up. Like, oh yeah, we're familiar. We're often very familiar with these, but we've never thought about countering them or doing something different. So this practice could be just a nice little addition to what's already familiar, and then can help us tolerate and evoke a different feeling too.
Mm-hmm. I really like the idea of having a script for yourself, because I feel like for me, one of my like big intrusive fear thoughts is like, I'm never going to figure this out. Like, I'm never going to get it right. And to have something that's a pre-prepared go-to instead, that's like feels more in wise mind, or what you would prefer to be telling yourself in those moments, that feels like such a great literal tool to keep in your pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And literally, if you put it in your notes section on your phone, it is in your pocket. You can whip that out at any time. Making your algorithm work for you, and having your notes in your phone or somewhere that you can just pull on them, or like messaging yourself with some of these like reminders, so you can just really easily go revisit them. Such a helpful tool in the moment.
You can even make it like your phone's like screensaver or your background, so you see it every time you're looking at your main screen.
Yeah, that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is the improve skill.
Or improvs.
One of the things that I didn't talk about, sometimes I'll teach this in groups, just depending on timing of when we talk about relaxing actions, is to do a sensory awareness practice. Basically, it's like moving through questions like, can you notice sensations in the bottom of your feet right now? Can you picture something far away? Can you notice temperature on your skin? Anything gives you prompts or questions to tune into your senses in slightly different ways. I have one written out that I'll post here. We can put in a reference for people to look at, and that can be a practice in a relaxing action category. All right. Well, go be skillful out there, and I'll see you next week.
Catch you on the flip side. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're so glad you're here. If you like this episode, please rate, share, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Check us out on social at The Skills Podcast or On Point Practice, and check out our website at theonpointpractice.com. Until next time.